Imagine this. Last night, deep inside Buckingham Palace, a single document, thin, unmarked, almost ordinary, slipped out of a locked drawer and into the wrong hands. And within minutes, every hallway, every chamber, every senior aide began whispering the same words. The crown is shifting, and Catherine is at the center of it. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't speculation. This was a quiet royal earthquake, triggered by a leak so explosive that even King Charles was reportedly rushed into a closed-door emergency briefing. But the real shock? The leaked document didn't weaken Catherine. It elevated her. It outlined a restructuring of power that places Catherine above Camilla, above senior council members, and, according to palace insiders, on a direct path to becoming the monarchy's shadow sovereign. And the worst part? The document was never meant to be seen. Not by the public. Not by the staff. Not even by most members of the royal family. Someone leaked it. Someone powerful. Someone close. And tonight, the royal war begins. The moment the aide's words echoed through the room, Catherine felt the ground shift beneath her feet. It wasn't fear. It wasn't shock. It was something colder, something heavier, like the palace walls themselves were turning against her. Screenshots. Screenshots of a document never meant to exist. Screenshots of a plan that elevated her. Screenshots that placed her name above Camilla's. And those screenshots were now circulating through every department, every private staff group chat, every security office, every communications desk. The palace had become a digital wildfire, silent, fast, uncontrollable. Catherine steadied herself. Anne's jaw tightened like steel. Who accessed the system? Anne demanded. The aide swallowed hard. It was sent from a restricted internal terminal. Which one? Anne snapped. The aide hesitated too long, spit it out and said, "The Queen Consort's wing, ma'am." A silence so sharp fell over the room that even the chandeliers seemed to stop trembling. Camilla. Of course. And didn't move, didn't blink. Her face was carved in stone, but the fury behind her eyes was unmistakable. Catherine exhaled slowly. She thinks I leaked it. No, Anne said bluntly. She wants everyone else to think you did. Catherine closed her eyes for a moment, not in weakness, but in focus. In the palace, perception was reality. And this reality had been crafted to destroy her. And she whispered, "What is Camilla planning?" The Princess Royal didn't answer immediately. She stepped forward, lowered her voice, and delivered a truth Catherine wasn't prepared to hear. She wants to force a public confrontation and said, "She wants Charles to choose. And she wants the staff to believe you're already making a play for the throne." "That's not true," Catherine said softly, almost to herself. "I know," Anne replied. "But this palace has never rewarded truth. It rewards strategy." Before Catherine could respond, the door opened again, gently this time. William stepped inside. One look at him told Catherine everything she needed to know. He had seen the document. He had seen the leak. He had already been summoned. "It's everywhere," William said quietly. His voice shook not from fear, but from rage. "Every department. Every private group. Some staff are saying this is your attempt to replace Camilla." Catherine's eyes stung, not with tears, but with disbelief. "Replace her," she whispered. "I didn't even know this existed." William walked to her, took her hand in both of his. "I know," he said. "But that's not the narrative spreading right now." And stepped forward. "We don't have time. Camilla isn't waiting. She's already gathered her advisors. We have to act before she controls the entire storyline." William's jaw tightened. "She wants my mother's crown. She always has." And raised an eyebrow. "She doesn't want your mother's crown," and said. "She wants to control who wears the next one." The words hit harder than any scream. Catherine whispered, "What do we do?" And answered without hesitation. "We go to Charles." William shook his head instantly. "No, that's what Camilla wants. She wants us to appear cornered. She wants us to panic." And turned to him. "She wants Catherine isolated," she said sharply. "And she nearly has." Catherine stepped forward. "Not yet," she said quietly. William and Anne both looked at her. Catherine lifted her chin. Her voice was steady, too steady. She expects me to defend myself, Catherine said. She expects me to deny the document. She expects me to fight. She paused. So I won't. And blinked. What do you mean? Catherine inhaled deeply. If I fight it, it looks like guilt, she said. If I deny it, it looks like fear. If I appear shaken, it looks like she's winning. William frowned. So, what do you intend to do? Catherine looked between them. I will walk into that meeting, she said, and I will act as if nothing is wrong. And stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. That, and said softly, is exactly why you were chosen. The emergency meeting was held in the red drawing room, a place reserved only for high-crisis moments. The air crackled with tension as senior aides gathered in tight clusters, whispering behind gloved hands. Catherine's entrance changed everything. She didn't rush. She didn't look worried. She didn't hesitate. She walked with the same quiet grace she had the day she married into the monarchy, a calm, composed presence that no leak could destroy. People parted for her without realizing they were doing it. William walked behind her, and walked beside her. A triangle the palace hadn't seen in years. Camilla was already seated at the head table, chin high, shoulders stiff, eyes sharp with accusation. Her clique of advisors flanked her like guards. Charles sat beside her, looking older than he had a week ago, concern etched into every line of his face. The moment Catherine entered, whispers died. Camilla leaned back, studying her with cold amusement. Well, Camilla said, voice dripping with sugar and venom, the star of the evening has finally arrived. Catherine stopped in front of her close, but not too close. Good evening, she said calmly. No emotion, no fear, no apology. Camilla smirked. I assume you've seen the document that has accidentally circulated. Catherine tilted her head gently. Yes, I have. Anything to say? Camilla asked, eyes narrowing. Catherine smiled softly. Only that the leak is unfortunate, she said, and clearly intended to cause division. A ripple of surprise spread across the room. She wasn't defending herself. She wasn't denying. She wasn't panicking. Camilla didn't like it. Not one bit. And do you deny, Camilla said loudly, that you sought this elevation? Catherine didn't blink. I deny nothing, she said calmly. Because I sought nothing. Gasps whispered through the room. Even Charles looked startled. Camilla leaned forward. So the palace is to believe, Camilla said, voice dripping with sarcasm, that you had no knowledge of a document that elevates you above the queen consort? Catherine looked her directly in the eyes. I had no knowledge, she said. But I do know this, whatever is happening here tonight is not caused by this document. It is revealing what already existed. Silence. Dead, heavy silence. Then Catherine added, fear. Camilla's face hardened. Fear of what? She snapped. Catherine didn't hesitate. Fear of change. A murmur spread like wildfire. Camilla opened her mouth to retaliate, but before she could, and stepped forward, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. The document was real, and said. And it was authorized. All heads turned to her. Camilla's eyes widened. Authorized by whom? And turned toward Charles. By the king. Camilla stiffened. Charles would never. But Charles raised a hand. I signed it, he whispered. Camilla's jaw dropped. And I did so, Charles continued softly, because the monarchy is shifting faster than we can control. Catherine represents future stability. The room erupted in whispers. Camilla looked like she had been struck. You did this behind my back, she breathed. Charles didn't answer, and stepped in again. But the leak, she said, looking directly at Camilla, that came from someone else. Catherine stood still, silent, composed, but her heart hammered. Camilla trembled. Are you accusing me? She hissed, and raised one brow. I am simply stating, she said, that the leak originated from your wing. Camilla shot to her feet. How dare you? But Catherine interrupted quietly, softly, devastatingly. This leak wasn't meant to expose me, she said. It was meant to destroy me. Camilla froze. Catherine added, but instead, it exposed everything else. The room buzzed. Lines were drawn. Alliances shifted. And the war, the real war, had only just begun. The room was still vibrating from Catherine's final words when the true fracture line finally snapped. Not with a scream, not with a confrontation, but with the soft click of a door being closed. Every head turned. The aide who had first reported the leak, the woman whose voice shook, whose fear was palpable, stood frozen at the threshold. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled. And in her hands was a phone, unlocked, open, displaying the original leak. Anne stepped toward her. "Who ordered you to send it?" The woman swallowed hard once, twice, as if trying to force down the weight of the truth. Finally, her voice cracked. "Your Majesty, I was instructed by someone in the Queen Consort's office." Gasps rippled like shockwaves. Camilla shot to her feet. "That is a lie." But the aide only bowed her head deeper. "I swear on my position. I swear on my years of service. The order came from inside your wing." Camilla's face darkened, not with shame, but with fury. "You ignorant girl," she snapped. "You have no idea." But Charles slammed his hand on the table. Not loudly, not with anger, but with exhaustion. "That's enough." The room froze. Camilla stared at him, eyes wide, suddenly understanding that this time, Charles wasn't protecting her. He wasn't smoothing the edges. He wasn't standing between her and consequences. He was standing with Catherine. "Camilla," Charles said softly, "the monarchy is not yours to police." She blinked, stunned. "You're taking her side?" "No," Charles shook his head. "I am taking the side of the future." Silence. Dead, absolute silence. And then came the moment no one, not one person, was ready for. Charles reached into the red folder beside him. The same red folder every monarch uses for state decisions. The same folder used for decrees. He slid a single document onto the table. A fresh version of the protocol revision paper. But this time, it carried 3 signatures. Charles, Princess, and N. "William." Camilla gasped. William didn't flinch. "Yes, I signed it." "You," she whispered. "You betrayed me?" William looked at her, not with anger, but with clarity. "I didn't betray you," he said. "I protected the crown." "And this, Camilla hissed, pointing at Catherine. "This is the crown now?" William didn't blink. "Yes." Camilla staggered back like she'd been struck. Catherine finally spoke, quietly, carefully. "This isn't about titles. It never was. The monarchy has to evolve. And I only want to help it survive." But Camilla wasn't listening. Her eyes flickered with something Catherine had seen only once before. Fear. Not anger. Not jealousy. Fear. The kind of fear that comes when someone realizes the palace no longer bends to them. "Charles," she whispered, voice trembling, "you're letting them replace me." "Because," Anne said softly, "she wrote your name in it." Catherine opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, one line had been underlined twice. "The woman who stands beside my son must be the one who leads the crown into its rebirth." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Below that, another sentence. "She will face cruelty. She will face opposition. But she must not bend. For the crown will bend for her." Catherine pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to steady her breath, and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You understand now," Anne said quietly. "This was never about Camilla. This was never about staff. This was never about that leaked document. It was always going to be you." But while Catherine was absorbing the weight of Diana's prophecy, Camilla was somewhere else entirely. Alone. Sitting in the private garden courtyard behind her wing. Her crown felt heavier now, too heavy. Her breath trembled in the cold air. She replayed the day in her mind. The leak. The confrontation. Charles's choice. William's signature. Catherine's calm. And then the final blow. "You're letting them replace me." And Charles saying, "But your chapter is closing." She felt the collapse, not of her power, but of her identity. For decades, she had survived scandals, hatred, insults, isolation. For decades, she believed she had finally won her place. But now it was disappearing. Not with scandal, not with disgrace, but with evolution. And Catherine, quiet, perfect Catherine, was the evolution. Camilla whispered into the cold night air. "You were never supposed to win. But even she didn't know whether she was speaking to Catherine or Diana. 3 days later, the palace made the announcement that shook the world. The Princess of Wales will assume expanded leadership responsibilities within the royal household. No mention of Camilla. No mention of conflict. No mention of leaks. Just one sentence. And that sentence set the internet on fire. News channels ran special segments. TikTok flooded with breakdowns. Twitter erupted with hashtags. Hashtag Queen in Waiting, hashtag Catherine Rises, hashtag Camilla Fallout, hashtag Royal Power Shift. But the world didn't know the final twist. Not yet. Because that evening, long after the announcement, Charles walked into Catherine's study. He looked older, tired, but resolute. "I'm making another announcement tomorrow," he said. Catherine stood up. "Your Majesty." He shook his head. "No titles," Charles whispered. "Not tonight." She nodded. He handed her a second red folder. "Open it." Catherine opened the folder slowly. Her heart stopped. William's breath caught. And smiled, just barely. Inside was a draft of a royal decree. A decree titled, "Letters Patent, the Preparation of the Future Sovereign." Catherine looked up stunned. "Your Majesty, this puts me." Charles finished for her. At the center of the monarchy's next chapter. "But Camilla," Catherine whispered. Charles raised his hand. "Camilla was never meant for the future," he said softly. "But you were." Catherine inhaled sharply. This changes everything." Charles stepped closer. "No," he said. "You changed everything." Catherine stood motionless, the weight of the crown, not yet hers, but already leaning toward her, settling on her shoulders. And that's when Charles spoke the words that sealed the fate of the monarchy. "Catherine, prepare yourself." She swallowed. "For what?" Charles exhaled. "For the moment the crown becomes yours much sooner than anyone expects." The world didn't know it yet, but the transformation had begun, and the monarchy would never be the same again. And now, as the dust settles on this royal earthquake, one thing is undeniable. The monarchy will never return to what it was. Not after this leak. Not after this betrayal. Not after Catherine stepped forward and the entire palace bowed. But this story isn't ending. It's beginning. Because everything we've uncovered tonight, the leaked protocol paper, the signature war, and secret intervention, Camilla